My number one objective when I joined the business was to convince leadership that marketing was not a cost center, it's a profit center. Marketing, you can kind of adapt to any industry. You sign up with Aramex and you get an email from our CEO saying,
thank you, Marc, for
thank you, Marc, for signing up.
Makes me feel so special.
Exactly. And you wouldn't even know it's not him, right? So it's all these small things that we kind of really focus on to ensure that we keep that brand loyalty and keep the customers happy and coming back and working with us.
So in a world where content is king, the throne is overcrowded. At the moment, everyone is chasing cheap views, clickbaits, and trying to jump on trends. We're trying to bring you the best insights on marketing from the people who are actually not checking the algorithm. They're trying to actually make it and influence it. Today, I'm having the pleasure to have a great conversation with Mike Rich, the CMO of Aramex in the region. Mike, thank you for being on board.
Absolute pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
How are you today?
I am fantastic. Much better than a couple of days ago. But yeah, I had an unfortunate incident. I had to have my appendix removed. So I had to go in for a quick little surgery, but I'm out and mending, and this is a great reason to leave the house. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, guys, this is a really great entrepreneurship spirit. Imagine a person having a surgery 2 days ago and being today here with us doing this podcast.
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Mike, we're gonna kick off with an initial, just general conversation. How long have you been in marketing?
Well, I actually want to say all my life, since I was born, to be honest with you. I think, it's been my passion for my entire life. It's everything I've ever done. There's always been an element of marketing. There's always been a way I need to find to make things work or push or drive a business. I've come from an entrepreneurial spirit. I was born with my parents or my dad owning his own business. I started my first company when I was 15.
What was it?
A computer company. I was in
Nice.
school. When I was still in school, I was the first kid to have a cell phone when they just came out, right? It was like the Motorola flip phone or something. So I was supplying computer parts to my school and the surrounding schools and managing the computer center, right? So that was... From those days already, I was thinking about how do I push and grow and scale my business as a 15-year-old. So for me, my entire life.
Did you sell it, or what happened to the business?
No, it's a bittersweet story. I kind of grew the business till I was about 16 and a half. My parents passed away, unfortunately, and that was kind of my support system at the time. So I had to make some other plans, but I came back strong, and there's many other stories. Maybe today some of them will follow. So
Exactly. No, but thank you for sharing. And what about, tell me about the journey that got you to Aramex at the end.
Man,
I'm not going to say the
how
end,
long
actually.
is this podcast?
Well, we can make it as long as you want.
Wow. Okay. So my life has been a real journey. I think I started off on the back foot because I was born with a bit of a heart condition, actually. So I had a 50-50 chance of survival. So I was the youngest baby to get open heart surgery. So I was on the front page of the newspaper. The headline read, "Baby of Hearts." So that was my start to life.
You had a PR campaign.
Yeah, exactly. I started off in the media. I mean, really, what an awesome way to start with somebody in marketing. So that was kind of my start to life. And then we touched on it earlier on. I started my computer company when I was 15, and that's kind of that was my first experience in the corporate world. And also I used to work at my dad's business as well quite a bit and help out. He produced signages, so all the signages when you drive on the highways,
nice.
And branding of all the police cars, vehicles, things like that. So he used to do all of that.
So somehow it's still also within the same vibe.
Yeah, it's still branding, in some way or form. So, and those days I would set up these computer systems for him and all the cutters and all that kind of stuff. And so it's been, it was a young start for me from a career perspective. And I think that has really molded and helped me where I am today. And especially I had a very early start in the corporate world. So after that, I started bartending, actually. That was kind of my first gig, really, my first work. And I actually started washing glasses at a bar called Challengers. They closed now, but I mean... This
in South Africa?
In South Africa, yeah. So it was a bar inside a hotel. And I was washing glasses and then became a bartender. And I don't know if you've seen the movie Cocktail with Tom Cruise.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. So when he flares and throws the bottles around and makes drinks, so that's what I used to do. And I used to travel around competing. And then that's when I met the guys from a company called Diageo. which are one of the
Well, Diageo.
largest liquor distributors in the
I
world.
think they're here in Jabal Ali, I believe.
Yeah, so obviously they're globally from UK. And I was based in South Africa at the time, so I met the guys from Diageo, and I started working for Diageo when I was 22. So I was one of the youngest people to join their business.
It's a cool business to be there at that age.
You know, you're 22 years old,
Sorry.
you're single, you're
Exactly.
young, you know, you have access to all of the nice places, going to all the nice parties. So it was a very, very interesting experience, and I think that has helped me a lot in terms of, you know, I met a lot of people. You get to talk to a lot of people. You get to talk to a lot of business owners, because now I start working with all the different bars and restaurants, obviously supplying them. So I get to meet owners at the age of 22 and having conversations with them, and I think that really helped develop me in a young age, which was amazing. So I spent 4 or 5 years with Diageo, and then I had the opportunity to open my own restaurant.
Nice. And I guess, you know, from that experience to this, we would think it makes sense.
Yeah.
And also, I would assume if you were at the age of like mid-20s, we all wanted a bar or a restaurant.
You know, it's the dream.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you go through that twice in your life. You go through at the beginning, and then at the end, you're like, you're going to retire on my own bar, you know, or coffee shop or whatever, or restaurant. So I was 26 when I had the opportunity to open my first restaurant. So it was actually through one of my clients with Diageo. So he basically said to me, you know, I have this, he said to me, come with me and come look at this venue, right? And it was in Stellenbosch, which is like the winelands in South Africa, beautiful area. And he said to me, come have a look at this venue and tell me what you think. And I went with him and I had a look, and I thought it was for him because he was wanting to open another business. It was a franchise. So I said to him, amazing, like this is amazing. I think it would really work. And he said, great, I want you to open it. And I was like, okay. And I think that's when one of my first challenges came in. It's like, okay, how do I fund this, right? I'm 25 years old, 26, opportunity to open a restaurant. I needed money. And obviously I didn't have parents. So I have 2 sisters, which have been amazing to me, right? So they're actually a lot older than me. So my sisters are 11 and 12 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
So I was definitely a mistake, or an oops, not a mistake. Let's say an oops.
Yeah.
I turned out to be okay. So then I approached my sisters and their husbands or fiancés at the time, and I said, listen, I have this opportunity, but I need some investments. And they were happy to help. And that's when I opened my first restaurant called Buena Vista, which was like a social Cuban cafe vibe. So that was my first restaurant, 2008.
Nice.
Then 2010, opened up my second restaurant. Now, during all of this and the Diageo time, I was studying at Varsity College, International Marketing Management, IMM, sorry, not MMI. That's
Yeah.
You understand? We are into
Same
that.
stuff.
And then I opened my first restaurant in 2008. Then I opened my second restaurant in 2010, close to my first one on the beach. And both restaurants, super successful.
Wow.
350-seater, both of them, and always fully booked.
Wow.
And it was an incredible experience. Obviously, I was taking care of everything in the business. I was taking care of the HR side. Now, keeping in mind, you know, I'm 26 years old. I have about now 100 plus employees that I'm looking after all of a sudden. Yeah, so talk about being thrown in the deep end and having to learn. But to me, I think this was the critical change, or not the critical change. Let me say, this was the big influence in my life was starting the restaurants, because I think there is where I learned the most about managing people, about running a business, because I had to take care of HR, you know, hiring, firing, stock procurement.
And more or less, it's decision making and influencing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you have, more or less, I give this example to my friends who have restaurants. For me, I was trying to get into restaurants, but I always tried to stay out of it. Actually, my brother, he's partner in 2, and he's like, you know, please stay out of it. It's a headache. Because right now, let's say if you have a business, you have one decision maker, or you have one criticizer, which is your client. When you're in F&B, if it's a table of 20, you have 20 people who are criticizing you, or potential hazards, I would say.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I was like, you know what?
No, honestly,
I'll stay out.
After my restaurant businesses, people would always come to me for advice and ask me about opening a restaurant. My advice would always be run like you are on fire. Yeah, because as amazing as the experience was for me at that age to learn and grow, it is incredibly hard work. And obviously coming from a country like South Africa, where the business were at that stage, there's a lot of issues around stock going missing and things like this, right? So you have to be incredibly good at managing processes, putting processes in place.
Correct.
And this, has led me really into kind of my career today and the processes I have today and things I do today. A lot I've learned from there. And I think, I have the utmost respect for people in the hospitality industry because that is where I learned to deal with people. Because imagine now you're a leader in a business. You have to deal with a CEO or a board or whatever the case is. But now, when you're in the restaurant industry, you have to deal with 100, 200, 300 different tables every single day. And every table, there are different people from different
characters,
different characters, different countries, different whatever, right? So you have to wear a different hat for every single table, and you have to learn to speak to, manage, deal with different people. And I think that, for me, was one of the biggest learnings in my life. And that has given me the ability to kind of manage, deal, speak to any kind of person, no matter who they are, where they're from, how high up in a business, or how low down. It doesn't matter, right?
I'll tell you something on that note. I had a similar experience, but so growing up, I was a very stubborn person. I was very always on edge. And then at some point, growing up, my parents were always trying to push us to have those small jobs, summer day camp, or playgrounds and such. And I started doing that. And I started getting into the business of kids' birthdays, entertainment and such. And I became, this guy with a microphone who was, running around with 200, 300 people, 300 kids. And I told my parents, this was the best experience I've had my whole life because I can deal now with my team, with people, and with everyone. If you can deal with a kid, you can deal with everyone.
Yeah.
They're the most unpredictable. And if you can get them to do what you want, you're golden.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I tell you, you're going to go through negotiations now. I mean, all I do every day is negotiate with my 3-year-olds. That is my life at the moment. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And so that was the phase of the FNB. And
Yeah.
then after it, what was the next stage?
So I ran both my restaurants for 6 years, and there's only so much time you can spend in the hospitality industry, right? So after 6 years, I really wanted to pursue my dream and passion of marketing. So there was an opportunity to join a business called The Entertainer, which a lot of people would know, obviously, in the Middle East.
Which year was that?
So I joined The Entertainer in 2016, I think.
Oh wow, I think that was very early stages.
Yeah. So, The Entertainer actually started 2001. So it's been around for quite a bit. It used to be a book, like a thick book.
I remember we used to buy it, 365 dirhams, and then if you buy it mid-year, you get actually the second year's book for free.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. So it used to be a book. So when I joined the business, we kind of launched in South Africa, and it was a book, like I said, at the time. And then shortly after that, we started rolling out the app. And so my role at the time there was kind of setting up the SA business. I was the country manager / GM. Built out a nice small team in South Africa, based in Durban, Joburg, and South Africa and Cape Town. And then the business started growing in South Africa, which was amazing. We started getting a lot of clients, and it was because Entertainer has a B2B and B2C side of the business. I think the majority of people would think of it as a consumer product, but there's a big B2B side of the business as well, right? Loyalty programs, white label products, things like that. So we kind of grew the business in South Africa, and then there was a gentleman, Paul Hennessy, who was the CEO of The Entertainer at the time, and I had a very good relationship with him, and he gave me an opportunity to come to Dubai to take over their global marketing.
Nice.
Now, there were challenges to that because at the time I was seeing somebody. I still am. She's actually my wife today.
Oh,
so
that's good. Hats off on that.
Yeah. So I had to convince her that I need to move to Dubai and she needs to come with. Now, at the time, she was working for a company, and she was with them for a long time, I think for 9 years or something at the time. And
is she from a similar field or?
No, so she's in food science.
Okay.
So she looks after big customers like McDonald's, for example, and supplying them with ingredients and sauces and coatings and things like that. So I had to convince her to move with me to Dubai. But
it's an easy sell, I would say.
Yeah, it is, it is an easy sell. And I think she's always game, right? And it was, both of us love traveling. And I was quite fortunate because at the time when I was in South Africa heading up The Entertainer, I was also part of the leadership team, the global leadership team at the time. So I would fly to Dubai once a month Anyway.
Nice.
So I got to know Dubai beforehand, and I knew what I was getting into.
Also, 2016 was it, or?
2016. So from 2016, every single month, basically, I would come to Dubai.
And it was already, because I've been here since 2012. From 12 until now, it's an upwards, and
Oh man, it's complete difference.
it's nonstop.
Exactly. You're driving on one road with the one day, the next day there's a bridge. And you're
Exactly.
like,
Actually, this Mike, the same thing exactly happened to me because I live here actually in JVC. So there's 2 bridges which happened in the past two months and a half.
yeah,
Which
it's
is
crazy.
I was like, great.
I know the other day I was driving, I was on Waze, and then I went up this bridge, and it wasn't even on Waze yet, and I was thinking, oh,
Flying.
okay. Yeah. I was like, this is not what I planned. So I had to convince it to come to Dubai. So I actually brought it to Dubai in midsummer
Oh,
because
wow.
I thought, let me introduce it to the
Worst conditions.
So I brought her midsummer, and we had an amazing time, and she was game. So she tried to obviously get a transfer from her business, her company, to Dubai, but they didn't have offices here, right? So that was the challenge, and because she didn't want to leave her company. So anyway, we moved to Dubai. My fault. I convinced her. Came to Dubai. It took a little while for her to find a job, but she did, and she found a job in the same industry. And it just so happened that her original company ended up buying this company.
Wow.
So she was back at the same company in Dubai.
So at the end, the dots will connect.
Honestly, I couldn't write the story if I tried.
Literally.
So it was perfect. So that was my in to Dubai, and I arrived in 2016. No, sorry, I didn't arrive in 2016. Actually, I arrived in 2016 in Dubai. I started in 15. 15, I started with The Entertainer. So 2016, I arrived in Dubai. And then I was with The Entertainer in Dubai for 5 years, heading up the global marketing. We built quite an amazing team here. I made some...
At that time, it was really growing because I remember from all our friends, everyone was buying it.
Yeah, man.
Hats off, and hands down, everyone was buying entertainment.
It was booming, man. We grew that business, 3, 4, 5-fold in a couple of years. So it was an amazing story. It was an amazing company, still is. I built a really amazing team. We brought it kind of all in-house. And yeah, it was a huge success story. Obviously worked incredibly well with my leadership team. In between that time, I got married in 2018 as well. And then The Entertainer was sold to GFH. Right. So when GFH bought The Entertainer, and I thought that was my time to exit, I was super happy and wasn't really looking to get into anything at the time. And I thought to myself, maybe I'll take a little bit of time. And then I was approached for the Aramex opportunity.
Nice.
So Aramex was looking for someone to take over their global marketing.
Then that was which year?
That was 2019, 2020.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So you joined and COVID happened.
Yes.
Okay, that must be a story.
Man, I have some stories to tell you. So I kind of joined when just after COVID started. I kind of joined Aramex, and it was amazing because at the time Aramex wasn't focusing on marketing. So they had
It's Aramex.
Yeah, it's Aramex, right? And it's logistics, right? So do they have to market? I don't know.
You need them both ways.
So joined the business, very small team based in Amman, Jordan, just focusing on kind of really branding and clothing and vehicles and stores and things like that, and a little bit of social and things like that. So nothing major. So when I joined the business, the idea was to really establish marketing. So my number one objective when I joined the business was to convince leadership that marketing was not a cost center, it's a profit center. Right?
Exactly.
That was my number one goal, right? That was my objective. I wanted people to understand that marketing is a commercial function. We drive revenue. So that was kind of my main objective. Built a team and I mean, I'm sure we'll get into some more detail around that later, but built a team and really established marketing in Aramex and solidifying our seat at the leadership table, which was
Wow.
amazing. And that's kind of where we are today. So,
But awesome. So let's talk more about that. So so you joined. So you were saying you joined after COVID.
yeah, so I joined after COVID. I joined Aramex.
And like before that, let's say, were you actually would you like were you interested in joining the shipping industry, like the overall shipping industry and so, or logistics? Like,
No, no, not at all. To be honest, I actually didn't know anything about logistics. And I think that's also the beauty about marketing. I think this is also where a lot of people maybe sometimes get it wrong, especially in the recruitment departments, right? Is marketing, you can kind of adapt to any industry. So if you really understand marketing and you really understand consumers, because it's a psyche at the end of the day, if you understand consumers, you can adapt it to any industry. So when I joined Aramex, I knew nothing about logistics, right? I knew that I would get packages when I ordered on Amazon or wherever, and that was it. Awesome. So for me, that was a massive opportunity because I thought to myself, okay, the logistics industry, let's be honest here, logistics is not the most exciting industry in the world, right?
Exactly.
But to me, that was like being huge opportunity here. I can take an industry that's not exciting, that thinks marketing is not important or doesn't focus on marketing, and I can really drive impact and make change and create wow. So that's what we did.
And I'll tell you actually what's the beauty on that, because I agree with you on both sales and marketing. Because for me, like I came from a sales background to marketing. From sales, I sold in my history, like in my experience, I sold the Procter & Gamble products. So I sold Fairy, Ariel Tide, Pampers, Downy, and such. I worked with Hasbro, the toy company. So Monopoly, Furby, Transformers, Play-Doh, I sold toys. Yeah. I sold trainings for a while. And then I moved to marketing because for me, sales and marketing is a mindset and it's a brain. You just need like a month or two to adapt your brain to whatever you're selling or marketing and then move on it.
To be honest with you, to touch on that, sales and marketing for me is almost becoming the same thing, right?
Correct.
Huge overlap. But so much so that in some industries, especially around the digital side of things, it's almost the same thing because that's what marketing is, right? You're driving revenue, driving sales.
100%. You're making it easier for people to make a decision. And on the same note, Mike, because we always like preach and talk about it, the beauty of coming to a new industry, because the people that have been doing the same thing for a while, they fall into something called the curse of knowledge. Right now, if we get an experienced, let's say, person from logistics and he talks technical to us, he's going to lose both of us.
Yes.
And I'm not going to listen. But get me someone with a fresh pair of eyes and fresh mind to the industry, tell me something simple, I'll buy. I'm done. Yeah. I'm with you.
100%. And the thing with the thing with the logistics industry is that there are so many terminologies. It is crazy. And people in the logistics industry think that consumers know what this means, but they don't, right? So it really helps to simplify things and for people to understand what it is. And that has been also a big element of change that we've introduced, is simplifying things for consumers.
And it's like, actually, I was watching an example yesterday. Some things in life are like pulse. You don't know that you need them, but when you lose them or when you have an issue with them, you realize that shipping. I'm pretty sure before COVID, like people, they know shipping and logistics existed.
Yeah.
But they really understood when the problems happen, then you realize, oh, okay, wow, logistics is very important. Similar to the incident that happened also with the Suez Canal. Everyone knew all the companies at that time.
So people just think it happens, right? They don't understand the back end of it. Exactly.
So how did you end up convincing? So you're a new person, you're a new joiner, fresh to the industry, with a marketing background, trying to convince the leadership team that they need marketing.
Great question. Just actually, before we get to that, before I forget, I wanted to touch on one thing around COVID. I want to actually tell you a quick story. So during COVID time, the e-commerce business boomed. Like when I say boomed, I mean it went off the scale.
Like 200x.
Exactly, right? Because everybody stayed at home.
We saw it.
Everybody needed their packages, right? And this was had a huge impact on the logistics industry, especially Aramex, right? Especially in the Middle East, because now we have to deliver these packages. And it's impossible. We don't have the people. It is just impossible to deliver all of those packages. So now this is where something called external factor comes in, right? It's the knowledge of knowing what's happening in the world to make decisions. So what we did at the time is RTA, the taxis, weren't running.
Wow.
Right? So then we thought, okay, the taxis are not running, and we need people to deliver. So Aramex ended up speaking to RTA, getting all the taxis to deliver the packages for us. So now all of a sudden, the taxi drivers were working, earning money, delivering packages. We had all of our drivers delivering packages, and like this, we got everything under control.
And hats off for you guys and for RTA, actually, for this is brilliant.
Yeah. So that was quite a cool story for Roman.
Were you guys, was it only Aramex doing that, or?
As far as I know, yes.
Wow.
And you would see every morning, you would look outside and you would see hundreds of taxis just, queuing up to load up packages and to go and deliver.
That's genius.
Yeah. So that was quite a cool way to help manage the volumes. So
Perfect.
I thought a cool story to share.
You guys should have made a campaign about that.
Actually true.
It's an Effie award, I would say, or something.
Fair enough.
Okay, so back also, so still in COVID.
Yes.
You're joined, and then so you have the mission impossible of trying to convince someone that marketing for logistics is important.
So I think this is where it gets quite exciting, because for me, it's always been in the results, right? Showing people how it works. So what we did at the time is, when I joined, we were just busy integrating with new service systems like Salesforce, for example. Because now, keeping in mind, right, there was no marketing systems, nothing. We weren't tracking any analytics. There were no tools in place, no systems. We weren't doing any paid media campaigns, really. And no B2B marketing, like account-based marketing, anything like that. So that's when I started building the team, started putting the plans in place. So we started creating an account-based marketing team, really, and we started focusing on driving leads. So that was a big focus for us. And then we obviously used tools like Salesforce to funnel the leads, and we could track the results. And that's when we started showing the results, saying, okay, listen, for every dollar we're spending, we're getting $10 back, $15 back, whatever the case is, right? And that's when the business started saying, okay, well, this is good. And then also, at the time, the original founder of Aramex, Fadi Handour, who is an amazing person, I get along incredibly well with him. And so at the time, he believed in the trucks being the billboards and being the marketing, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
And you know what? That was the reality until a certain point. But the reality is that we live now in a digital age, and businesses need to evolve, and leadership need to understand the value that marketing brings. So that was my kind of objective. So then we started setting up the different departments. So I created a creative department, I created a digital department, I created corporate communications, and then under digital we had social and content, all the lovely stuff. So we started creating these campaigns, started driving leads, and we started showing the results, and people were going, okay, wow, this is cool, this is working, right? And then obviously we evolved that into the beast and machine we have today. And I always kind of Aramex is actually B2B2C and B2B. It's not
Correct.
really B2C. It's B2C in some sense. You can go to one of our outlets and drop off a package and send it, or you can go on the app. You can download the Aramex app.
But it's not a major volume.
It's not major. We're a B2B2C. So, for example, we work with all our partners, and they deliver to the consumers, the banks, all that kind of stuff. So when it comes to marketing, I call B2B the silent marketing, right? Because people will see, these guys don't really do a lot of marketing. Okay, we've got a perfect blend, and I'll touch on that now, on what approach we've taken. But B2B marketing is like the silent marketing. But the machine that runs behind that is just incredible. And the revenue we drive and the leads we drive, man, we've turned a business from $0 from a marketing contribution to tens of millions of dollars.
Wow.
Just through lead generation. So it's been a huge success.
But then the question is, so you guys knew how to use the growth of e-commerce at that time in your own benefit. Because I'll tell you one thing, we've seen the numbers. We've been in the industry for more than 10 years. E-commerce, we were actually, as an agency or as even anyone who's in marketing, you're trying to push for e-commerce, you're trying to push for all those stuff. And then suddenly a force majeure happened, and then it forced everyone to go into that.
Yeah.
But the growth was immense. Like the numbers wouldn't make sense to anyone. And but then after that, it somehow re-regulated, I would say. So during that time, what was the biggest opportunity? Like you would say, was it the businesses working with you guys? Was it is the audience more aware?
So I think there's a couple of things. So when the big spike and boom happened, obviously it affected us in a very positive way from a revenue perspective and a business perspective. But that also means it created an opportunity for hundreds of other companies to start logistics businesses, right?
Correct.
So all of a sudden, we've gone from having one huge player in the market and a couple of smaller ones to now having hundreds and hundreds of logistics players. Now, that obviously puts a lot of pressure on us as a business, as Aramex, of course, because smaller companies, startups are more agile.
They're faster. They can
learn-
compete on.
Yeah. So now we need to think like a startup, right? Because we were a startup. We started in 1982. The business has been, it's been an incredible journey, and we can maybe touch on that. But we had to really think about how do we become agile. That's number one. How do we take on these startups? How do we update, introduce new technologies? And then also from a marketing perspective, my biggest thing that I did is I adapted B2B marketing to a B2C style of marketing.
Nice.
Because the challenge that people have, or not, I wouldn't say the challenge people have, but I think the mistake people make is that they assume B2B marketing is boring. And they assume B2B marketing needs to be corporate. Exactly. It's a person, needs to be corporate. That's not true. At the end of the day, it's a consumer at the end of the day. It's the same consumer that I'm going to be marketing, or that a fashion brand is going to be marketing to. That consumer is the procurement director of a company.
Except he's making a bigger decision.
Exactly.
That's going to get you more revenue.
Exactly. So we approached... we took a complete B2C approach to our B2B marketing. So we made it fun and creative and colorful and clever and smart and cheeky.
But was it content, like say like LinkedIn and
It was everything. Like for example, when we ran lead generation campaigns, we made it a bit more fun and not as corporate. When we ran our socials we changed. We started targeting a younger demographic. We started creating content that speaks to everybody, younger people, older people. We started having a bit more fun, doing memes, all these kinds of things, right? So we started creating this B2C approach to marketing, which was an opportunity that we took.
But hats off also for the management, because they were flexible. Because in some places, other companies, I would say, and even we can talk about big names, not to talk about something in the region, BlackBerry, Nokia, like those people who did not, let's say, venture in the new stuff or try new things, end up losing.
So that's what I touched on earlier on when I said external factor, right? This, for me, is one of the most important qualities a leadership should have, is external focus. It's about focusing on what's happening in the world out there. And if you don't have external focus, that is exactly what happens to some of these big companies that die, right? You have a company that's the biggest in the world now, and 5 years later, they're gone.
It's gone.
Right? And same with the logistics companies. It's happened a couple of times in the Middle East. You have to have that external focus so you understand what's happening in the market, so you can keep up with the trends all the time.
Correct.
So the problem is you have people that work in a business and they're so focused on what they're doing, so they don't really see what's happening out there.
And especially, as you were saying, because logistics is very technical, like it's technical, it has to do with governments, it has to do with the processes. And you want to talk something about processes, I would say.
Yeah, I think in terms of processes, I think it's so funny. We have we have internal audits within our organization. Obviously, we're a public listed company, and they're always auditing the different departments as part of their job, right? And so for the first time, we're doing a marketing audit, which is kind of exciting, but also great, because the first meeting I had with them, they said to me, "Wow, you know what? You guys are the most organized we have seen," which is great.
Good. Yeah.
And I think that's also kind of where marketing has the upper hand, because we have access to a lot of tools and technology and AI tools, right? So there's a lot of new tools that help us with managing processes and flows and campaign briefs and all that kind of stuff. So I think, I touched early on learning processes when I was much younger, and I've kind of adapted that and taken it into my role today. And I think we're very organized in terms of a team, how we structured, how we brief things in, how we develop things. We've kind of built a full-on in-house agency.
Wow.
Servicing the rest of the business. Because keep in mind, Aramex is a massive organization, right? We're talking 16,000 people, 60 countries, and we're talking endless number of departments, and every department briefs in and need things done, from internal communications to external communications.
So basically you guys are doing, it's centralized in terms of marketing, or you guys have it?
So marketing is centralized, but I also introduced international marketing. So at the time when I joined, we didn't have any marketing managers anywhere around the world, right? So I started introducing international marketing. So now we have marketing people in South Africa, India, Malaysia, UK, wherever, right? So we have people all around the world now, and their goal really is to kind of put together the strategy for that market, working closely with the VP for that market to understand their objectives, how we can support, because at the end of the day, we are a support function. And then that is to brief into central the campaigns they need for their region, and then also central come up with huge campaigns that we then localize in those markets. And then obviously our biggest driver, which is our account-based marketing campaigns, that's centralized, but with input from obviously all the regions. Because we create different campaigns. In account-based marketing, you obviously get one to many, one to few, and one to one, right? So we create different styles of marketing for different verticals, for different regions. So we run hundreds of campaigns, generating leads at the same time.
And is it, let's say, like how challenging it is? Because, for instance, every market is a different challenge, and every market has a different players. So how challenging is it to so the team here needs to understand literally more than 60 countries if you guys want to adapt, let's say, a global campaign, I would say.
So I think this is where we rely on the localized marketing managers for their input, right? Because every market is different, exactly as you said, right? There's certain things in the Middle East you can do and certain things you can't. And
even in the same Middle East countries, like in the Arab countries.
Saudi versus Dubai versus...
Exactly, 100%.
100%. That was a good example. So we rely on the localized marketing managers. And I think it's also, once again, touching on that external focus. It's making sure that we have our finger on the pulse on all markets. But it's also very exciting, right? Because you get to deal with different people. But if you look at the core base, we're all kind of the same, right? Like, you know, I always say this, you know, everyone around the world kind of want the same things. You know, they want success, they want a family, they want to be healthy. You know, so our core principles are the same, and we differ in certain other ways when it comes to religion or whatever the case is. So we need to be sensitive for certain things in certain markets, and a lot of the base is the same around the world.
Exactly. And so let's go back to also like stick to now your current role. So what would you say in terms of like, you know, thought leadership and leading a team of marketeers in a very challenging, I would say, industry? Any interesting story you have on top of mind, any success or maybe sometimes failures, because we do learn from failures?
Man, I have so many failures in my life. It's crazy. But
aren't we all actually?
No, but
if
you know
we're
what?
failing, it means we're trying.
Exactly. I always say, and I said this to my wife as well, like I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I wouldn't change a single thing. If I had to go back now to 20 years ago, I wouldn't change a single thing, because every single mistake I've made has taught me something and is the reason why I am where I am today. So I wouldn't change anything. I mean, since I was young, I told you, obviously, you know, I started while studying and while working and while doing bartending and while working for Diageo and all the stuff. I always tried things on the side. I always starting little e-commerce businesses. When I had my restaurants, I opened up a sports shop in Stellenbosch, which wasn't a success. I was the guinea pig in a new mall. It didn't work out. It's just part of life, but, you know, it happens. I started a small little marketing agency when I was 4 or 5 years old. I started, I tried a couple of e-commerce companies, and there was loads of things I tried and failed, and I learned a lot, which was amazing. Coming into Aramex, obviously, my approach with my team or my style of management is I always encourage them to be curious, right? Don't be scared to make mistakes. Try things. You know, as long as it's calculated, try it. You know, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's fine. You know, I'm not going to fire you. You're not going to be in trouble. You know, we move on and we learn. As long as we learn, right? So I really push my team to be curious, to try new things. I'm the first one to put my hand up when there's a new tool out or a new style of marketing, or, you know, we work very closely with Meta, and we're always saying if there's something new in the region that you're rolling out here first, we want to be the first to trial it. Same with a lot of our suppliers. So we're always open to try new things. And then again, you know, it's about, for me, it's all about my team. Like, I have built such an incredible team that I'm at the point where if we brief in a campaign and the team work on it, what comes back is just incredible all the time. The guys are amazing. I've really built an amazing team. Everybody understands our vision. Everybody understands what we're trying to achieve. You know, like I said, when I started with Aramex, and I wanted to build out this marketing team, I wanted to get some of the best talent in the world in. But to get the best talent in the world to come work for a logistics company in the Middle East is not easy, right?
100%.
So I had to really rely on my personality to sell this.
You're not Disney at the end.
Exactly. You know, it was like that speech that Steve Jobs did from the guy from Coca-Cola saying, you know, do you want to sell soda or change the world, right? I had to have this kind of speech with the people and say, you know, come with me, let's do something different.
Redefine logistics.
Redefine logistics. Let's make people think, oh my word, I didn't expect this from a logistics company or Aramex, whatever. And getting these people in, that's what made the team. That's what made everything tick, right? And that's what we did. Things like, one of the first things we did is so when you change the language settings on a website from English to Arabic, all the call to actions are for males.
Very good point.
Yeah. So we were the first company in the world to create a female Arabic website. So if you go into Aramex and you go to language settings, you can choose English, Arabic, or female Arabic. So you have, so we were the first in the world. Twitter was second in the world to do it.
Wow.
And it was actually quite funny because when Twitter did it, they put out a statement saying the first company in the world to release, and somebody commented and said, Aramex already did it.
You guys should have commented from your own handle.
We should have. But someone did it for us. So that was really an amazing feeling. So it's about doing these kind of things that are different. And I mean, we spoke about this before the podcast. Like, Ramadan for us is very important. It's an amazing time of the year in the Middle East. Very important time of the year in the Middle East. We're an Arab company. I've been here for 8 years now, and I think I speak about this a lot. It's amazing how the Arab world have accepted Westerners or expats to come in, right?
Make it home,
especially in Dubai, right? I mean, Dubai, you have 90% of the people here are expats, right? But, we've made it home, and we're proud of Ramadan. Although I'm not Muslim. I am proud of Ramadan, and I celebrate it with my colleagues, and that's really amazing. So for us, it was an amazing time, and it was something we wanted to grab onto. So every year when we started, we released a Ramadan campaign every single year. And actually, our first Ramadan campaign was a case study in a university because it was so successful. And we've done one every year. And last year, we did our Ramadan campaign around Gaza because Gaza at the time was the only city we couldn't deliver to in the world. Right?
Oh, wow.
So the campaign was called The Undelivered. And it was a beautiful story. And it was an incredible success. And for us, it wasn't about trying to sell anything, right? We don't do campaigns in Ramadan to sell or to grow our brand. We do it to tell a story, and we do it to resonate.
And make a difference. At least try to make a difference.
100%. The previous Ramadan was around Alzheimer's. This Ramadan obviously was touching on the situation in Gaza. So,
any sneak peek on this year's?
So, this year we felt that it was maybe time for a little bit more lighthearted. So we have something coming up that's maybe a little bit of a competition between neighbors.
Now that's going to be very exciting for us to see it.
So keep an eye out for the Ramadan campaign. It's a little bit of a competition between neighbors.
Perfect.
And I think it's a beautiful story. So I think everyone will love it.
I'm really excited on that.
Yeah.
I'm across of my head, just like an over. Actually, on your point, you're absolutely right about being here in the region, in the UAE, and also Dubai, Abu Dhabi, all actually across the whole UAE. It's amazing that people can create magic because there's the infrastructure to do that. I think that's the beauty of it. I remember, like, before the podcast, I told you that 2 days ago we had a conference, which is the aviation conference. It's called GISS 2025.
Yeah.
It's a global conference for aviation. So we were there with ministers of transport and global civil aviation authorities. They all flew to Abu Dhabi for the conference. And during the conference, actually, so the UAE broke the world record for drones and fireworks at the same time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Exactly. But for me, being here for 12 years, last year, so we were in it was in Punta Cana. It was fun, and it was cool. And then when they said that the next year is going to be in UAE, for me, I'm Lebanese. I've been here for 12 years. I felt that the conference is coming home. When I'm here during the conference, the sense of belonging that we have in this country is actually amazing.
I say to my wife every time, there's very few places where we go on holiday, and then after 2 weeks, I feel like I'm ready to go home.
Exactly.
And that is Dubai, right? We've settled in. We have a house. My daughter was born here, which is, I couldn't be more home than.
And trust me, she won't like anywhere else. I'm
exactly. And the lifestyle and the safety element here is just something we're not used to really in South Africa. I mean, Cape Town is different, but there's always an element in your subconscious, right? Which here it kind of just melts away, which is amazing.
And it's a place where I tell my wife the whole time, it's a place where you can never compare to anywhere else in the world.
No, you can't.
It's a whole different planet. I have one more question, which is on top of my mind. How would you say, because you've been there, you've done that, you've worked with, Diageo, Entertainer, you had your own businesses, and now Aramex. How would you build? How can you maintain trust and credibility for a brand while yet staying creative and trying to make a difference or be closer to audiences and customers?
So I think there's a lot of elements to that question. I think first of all, so I look after marketing. I also look after customer service and customer experience at Aramex,
Wow.
right? So I have a team of about 650 people.
So this is like your biggest focus group.
Yeah, exactly. So I have about 650 people in my team, right? So I think what's very important is customer experience. So I took over the customer experience at Aramex just over a year and a half ago, right? So I brought on board a really amazing guy heading up the customer service and customer experience, and we started introducing new technologies, AI, and really focused on creating an incredible experience in every touch point, from when you want to send a package, pick up, parcel, the courier delivery, redoing of the brand. We have new courier uniforms coming out, so you're the
Nice.
first to know. So
Perfect.
they're coming out in the next couple of months. Aramex, for the first time in 20-something years.
Wow, that's
we'll have new
exclusive on this
courier,
podcast.
Yeah, we'll have new courier uniforms, and they look amazing and stylish. The vehicles you'll start seeing now have all been rebranded. They're starting to rebrand them with a big
Nice.
A, nice and clean. So it's about these small tweaks and changes all the time. And then also the biggest element really is around also sustainability, right? That's a huge focus for us. So sustainability, we know we're a big contributor to emissions in the world. And for us, it's very important to see how we can combat that. So we're constantly innovating and trying to find ways in terms of solar power, hydrogen, emissions, electric vehicles. We're introducing electric vehicles into our fleet all around the world. So there's a big focus around sustainability. We were also the first company in the Middle East to release a sustainability report in 2001, I think.
Wow.
So for us, it's always been at the core of what we do. So it's all these small things that we kind of really focus on to ensure that we keep that brand loyalty and keep the customers happy and coming back and working with us.
Awesome. Good job. I like actually, so there are two things to look forward to: the campaign, the Ramadan campaign,
Yeah.
and the uniforms.
Yes.
Actually, technically, I should get my renewed visa and my Emirates ID. So I think I'm pretty much just gonna be with you guys.
Awesome.
Awesome. Mike, would you say, like, last couple of questions, would you say there's any, like, let's say, anything to look up to from a marketing perspective or key upcoming trends that you're spotting or you're hoping to see in the next period?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, this is such a buzzword, but the reality is we're not going to get away from it, and it is booming. Is AI, right?
AI.
So AI, in my opinion, is not where it needs to be yet. It's not going to take over the creative teams. That's not the idea, and that wouldn't be my idea of AI in the future anyway. The idea of AI for me is to manage output, right? It is to support the teams and functions, to relieve them to do and focus on other bigger things, right? Sometimes we want to just sit back and think about ideas, but sometimes we can't. We just have so much work going on and so much things we need to push out. So this is where AI is going to help and support. So I think that's a big trend and something we need to look at, of course. E-commerce and social selling, that's going to be a huge focus, right? So
it's going upwards and upward and upwards.
It's going to explode. So that's a big focus and a trend as well. I think there's a lot of marketing trends that are silent as well around B2B marketing, right? So I think this is something that not a lot of people speak about because it's not fun and exciting.
Exactly.
But that's the revenue driver, right? Is how do we what are the tricks to do with account-based marketing, right? So for example, when people roll out account-based marketing and they start generating leads, 99.9% of people focus on one-to-many. They run generic campaigns, maybe focusing on a specific vertical, trying to drive as many leads as possible, right? Then you start moving to one-to-few. Now you start saying, okay, I'm going to target a specific industry, and I'm going to target specific people. So, for example, okay, we're targeting e-commerce people, right? Okay, we want to grow e-commerce. Now, who are you trying to target in the e-commerce industry? The procurement director. Now, this is the conversation we're having with the VPs, right? Okay, procurement director, fantastic. What's their KPIs? Okay, well, they want to look at visibility on deliveries and delivery times. Excellent. So now we start creating content. So now we start creating an article that says how to reduce delivery times and increase visibility on deliveries. We take this article, we write up on how we do it from an Aramex perspective, and we target specific procurement directors in specific companies So when you're scrolling on LinkedIn and you see an article saying, "Oh, how to reduce delivery
I'm
times,"
interested.
I'll be like, "Oh, that's my KPIs. I want to read this, right?" So now you're becoming more relevant, right? So I know everyone always talks about personalization and relevance, and that's boring stuff already. And if you're not doing that, don't be in marketing.
Exactly.
But now it's really about understanding how you adapt that to B2B marketing, and then you take it to the step further where you do one-to-one, right? This is now when you have to get super clever. Now the challenge with one-to-one ABM marketing is the fact that it takes a lot of resources and time, but the payout could be massive.
And it drags. It's not like
Exactly.
It's not a transaction. It's not a one-time transaction. It's actually it will last.
Yeah. So now, for example, we say, okay, we're trying to get this customer, and this is the person we're trying to speak to, right? Then we start saying, okay, let's create a landing page that looks similar to their company, so they're familiar with the look and feel, but we kind of adapt our brand to it. We start looking at their year-end reports, and we start doing word cloud to understand what are the keywords they talk about. We incorporate that in our articles. So when they read it, they think, these guys speak my language, right? And then it's about targeting what channels are these guys following, what are they doing, and then it's targeting them with this kind of content. So now you really become relevant for that one person. So these are big trends on the B2B side of things that will evolve and really start becoming a must-do in
I
the
think
future.
this is gold. Thank you for this bit is really gold, because I think by the end of the journey, the client is already sold. He's already okay. The last part, the remaining is the 5% of yes, just I'm on board, and assign me in.
And I mean, there's loads of other trends. I mean, I could talk forever on things that's coming. You know, if this podcast was 2 hours, I'd maybe cover some of it. But there's trends around engagement, right? That's always the talk. How do we get more engagements, right? Removing steps. So, for example, video in email. And I'm not talking about GIFs or anything like that. I'm talking about actual video in email. So this is where AI tools actually help. There are a lot of AI tools that make things easier for you from a execution perspective in terms of new technologies or new, like I'll give you an example, video in email. That's something that we're doing now, where you open up the email and the video is in the actual email, so you can watch the video. No need to click on, go to another landing page or whatever the case is. These kind of things, right? And things like using AI software to create and adapt videos. So for example, we take our CEO, we film him, he reads something for 15 minutes, and now we filmed him and we can create him to say anything. So we start creating dynamic content. So for example, if you sign up with Aramex and you get an email from our CEO saying,
thank you, Marc, for
thank you, Marc, for signing up.
Makes me feel so special.
Exactly. And you wouldn't even know it's not him, right? So there's all of these technologies that...
And even, I'll tell you one thing, even if I know, I like it. Like it's
clever. It's awesome, and why not? Yeah,
I mean, that's the whole thing. Is even Marc from our side, we've been for the past couple of years, we've been literally pushing our teams and all our clients to move to AI, to use AI, because as you said, it's not gonna substitute people. It's gonna make your life. We tell our team, think as if you hired an extremely smart assistant. That's going to make your life easier.
Yeah, exactly.
From ChatGPT to Adobe AI to all, like now everyone's after AI. Actually, in the conference, they showed us a 3-minute video which was fully animated from AI.
Yeah.
It talks about UAE history, and they mentioned this is about AI because I think UAE is the first country in the world to have an AI minister.
Yeah.
So this is again.
Only in Dubai.
Only
in Dubai. I couldn't agree more. And even for executives, right? I mean, sometimes there's a stigma around ChatGPT. Oh, you use ChatGPT for that. But the reality is it's about the prompt you put in there. Now, for example, when I use ChatGPT, I don't expect it to come up with the answers for me, but I give it the information and instead of me having to type out a 500-word something, I can give it all the relevant information and points I want to touch on. It puts it into a story. I go through it. I'm happy. Let's go. It saves me 2-3 hours.
100%.
2-3 hours that I will much rather spend on something else, right? Growing the business, driving revenue, whatever the case is.
This is where the trend actually, which everyone was talking about, is prompt engineering. So
exactly.
Know how to prompt. This is not a Google search. You have to literally prep as if you're briefing one of your team. Okay, you are now my marketing consultant. Think I need to do 1, 2, 3. This is my 1, 2. Those are my variables.
Yeah.
Get me something and then tweak from it.
Yeah.
I think
that is. You actually touched on a very, very, very valid point here. I think a prompt engineer is going to become a a solid position in a marketing team from
100%.
this year on. From this year onwards, you should have somebody in your team that understands AI. So in our team, we have one person that is just AI obsessed, right?
Wow.
And this person is just, every single day spending time on every single new
Do you guys
tool.
lock him in the safe or?
But this is something that's 100% going to be a role in your team. And if you're listening to this and you're in marketing and you're putting together your budgets for next year or for this year and you're adding in a headcount, put one in for AI prompts, because that is going to be an actual role.
Awesome. Mike, this was really, really, really one of the best conversations I've had. And I think actually there's lots more, but we'll keep them for
Honestly, we can go on for hours.
100%. We'll keep it for hopefully a second conversation. Really, thank you for making this a pleasurable conversation. Any last 2 cents for any marketeer?
Well, I think maybe I'll say the same I say to my team. Always be curious. Don't be scared and try new things. Just get out there. If you're not trying new things, you're not going to grow and develop, and you're going to be stuck and in the same position. You're not going to see the results. Just try new things. Make sure AI is part of your everyday life. Even if you start with ChatGPT as a base tool and work your way through the system, you can use ChatGPT to introduce you to amazing other tools as well. And just be curious.
Awesome. Well, I think you guys heard it, and if you guys are watching this, you can definitely put in the link of the YouTube of the episode and put it in ChatGPT, and then it will transcribe all the nuggets and all the important stuff. Thank you for listening and watching Thought Leadership Uncovered, and we'll see you all in the next episodes. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.